Fist bumps from Mikel Arteta. Arsenal are top of the league. That goal difference, which is 7 better than Liverpool in a title race this close, could prove crucial come the end of the season. Every advantage you can get in this title race might well help. And Kai Havertz is in the form of his career, well, certainly in the form of his career in England.
Yeah, and again, a lot of credit goes to Mikel Arteta. A lot of people question the decision to sign him for such big money. But he's coming good. I mean, you see he's a good football player. It was where'd you play him? I quite like him when he plays false nine. I think at the minute I'd rather have him than Gabriel Jesus down the middle. But you always know what you're going to get from him. He's always there or thereabouts. He's better in the air than people give him credit for. And even if he doesn't score, he usually gets the first credit. He's always there or thereabouts. But fair play to him. Took a lot of criticism over the years, but he's starting to come good. And again, a good player that can play a number of positions.
Yeah, he's always been better than maybe his reputation from his time at Chelsea suggests. Are we starting to see that now at Arsenal?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a super player, always have. And I think if your job is to watch football players and critique them, and you watch him and don't see a good football player, then I worry for you. Because the only problem with him is he doesn't have a set position, and that's his only downfall. You think about Ødegaard and Saka and Martinez, they all have their fixed positions. The problem is with Kai, he's so versatile and he can play so many positions that he gets kind of drifted everywhere, and it's to his own detriment. But I just think physically...
He's played full-back before in his career as well.
In the last international for Germany, he played wing-back and left-back.
Right, OK.
But the point is, he's probably a number 10, but Ødegaard plays he was, for Leverkusen, he was best off the right, but obviously they have Saka there. And I think, so in a way, they signed a player that can play 4 or 5 positions, but they needed somebody with the money they spent to score goals. And I think right now, false nine, getting in the box, he's brilliant in the air because of his size. I just think he's been an amazing addition. Credit Edu and Mikel for signing such a unique player.
Yeah, and this has been a sort of hallmark of Arsenal and under Mikel Arteta, is finding the right position for players and working with them to make sure that they're as effective as they can be there.
Yeah, and I think to what Owen said, I think it has been difficult for him because I still feel like he's a player that needs a couple of chances in a game, because even before he got that header on Saturday, he missed a huge chance a few minutes earlier that he thought had gone in, but actually ended up missing the angle by quite a big margin. So I do think it's in those moments where we're seeing it pay off for him, you still think he's getting quite a few chances. It's almost like, how can you then take that next step to be even more consistent? And I think that's maybe the final piece of the puzzle for him. But it's not really a surprise when he has not only been moved around positionally, but also, you know, the end of his Chelsea career was, you know, quite stop-start. He's been in and out of starting lineups and everything. So I do think it does take time to then build up that form again to be as consistent as you need to be. And like Owen said, if you've been bought as a goal scorer and you're not in form over the last couple of years, then it's hard to find that again. But what Arsenal do know is that he scored in the Champions League final, so he can handle that pressure. And I think that's what gave him all that respect and credit in the bank at Chelsea. So it feels like there's still so much more to come from him.
Do you know what he does as well? He does a lot of the ugly stuff well. And when I say that, you look at the amount of headers he wins, he challenges, he picks up second balls. Do you know what I mean? He does... The Ødegaard doesn't really want to do it. He's more of a silky footballer. You've got Declan Rice who's doing that 8 job really, really well. But he just picks up pieces. He challenges the centre-halves. He's a real focal point. He's not the quickest, but he seems to be able to glide away from players as well. And I think the more he plays in that system, certainly as a false nine, I think the better he'll become. And it so happens that he's got a regular run in the team now, and that's why the goals are coming. I mean, when you're in and out of a team, you're never going to see the best of anybody. But now he's getting a consistent run in Arsenal's team. You're starting to see him at his best.
I think people confuse his body language with being quite chilled and relaxed, with, you know, kind of not being as competitive. If you look at his career pathway, leaving Leverkusen to go to Chelsea, that's a big move for a young kid in lockdown. He could have gone to Bayern and had it easy. Went to Chelsea, it was tough, and Chelsea turned out to be a bit of a mess. I think he was their top scorer, wasn't he, last season, even though he's not a centre-forward. And then he makes an even tougher move, I think, to go across to Arsenal. That tells you all you need to know, I think, about him. Forget his body language. He makes big decisions for a young kid, and I think that is, you know, brave decisions, which I think are quite rare for somebody at that age.
Yeah, question of body language. It's easier to say it than show it, maybe. But in terms of body language, I think it's a really interesting one, because I think so many players are criticised for having poor body language. I wonder if it's a product of that sort of intense pressing that has come in and out of fashion in football, and if that's seen as being a player who's got good body language, if you're constantly running and constantly on the go, and maybe a player who thinks a bit more is seen as being a bit more laid back and maybe not caring as much at times.
But I think Ozil had that body language which you either loved or you hated. And I think the modern coach probably didn't love it because it didn't look like he was running as much. I think if you look at the stats for Kai, he's always running. You know, whether he's always tackling, winning second balls. I think people criticize him maybe the way he looks or lots of different things. But actually, if you look at the way Kai plays and his numbers, there's nothing timid about him.
Yeah. I think the decision-making has been another, thing that he's had to learn as he's got more experience and got older. And I think when he first started playing for Arsenal this season, fans were a little bit frustrated about some of the decisions he was making in games and the opportunities he was missing as a result of that. And I do think part of that's being in a new team, understanding your teammates, understanding what they want from you. It's not been easy with the fact that Jesus hasn't really been around. So how do you build relationships with players? And the pressure is there. But I think the fact that Arsenal need him in this run-in, which is a point in the season that they struggled last year, that's also an opportunity that he can then grab and really establish himself as a key part.
Do you know what as well? It's about being in a stable environment. Chelsea, as you said there, it was a bit of a mess. I know it was good at first. Thomas Tuchel came in, but towards the end, it was a mess. You didn't know who was in charge, what was going on. He's gone to Arsenal, which is stable. Mikel Arteta looks like he's going to be there for a long time. He probably feels more relaxed in himself. He probably feels more settled. And now he's starting to play with teammates that trust him as well. Because at Chelsea, you just didn't know. I just felt like he was getting criticised a lot for maybe not even necessarily his own fault. But now at Arsenal, everyone seems to be buying into it. It's taken a bit of time to win the fans over. But now you can quite clearly see, you put him in a stable environment, he's a top player.
Should he have been on the pitch?
Yes.
I know we don't want to run over.
We're going to go back
VAR chat. We've got more VAR chat. Did he dive?
Yes.
So is it a yellow?
Yes. Yeah.
So should he have been on the pitch?
In the moment. But obviously we know with that retrospectively, with VAR, you can't go back and do that. But if it'd been seen in the moment, yes.
Did he dive?
Listen, he's probably gone down a bit. He's probably gone down a bit easier. But my problem with that is, right, there is a bit of contact there. That you can't tell it's not contact.
Really?
Before or after
minimal.
he dived?
Yeah, minimal, but it's contact.
Before or after he dived?
No, he dived. He dived. It should have been a yellow card.
But I think he actually dives before the contact.
Yeah.
There probably is a fraction of it. But I do think he probably goes a little bit early because sometimes I think as a player you're anticipating
Exactly.
it.
I was going to say it's the anticipation that gets him. And
I mean that is like that is like.
What we should say from a referee's point of view is that I think in terms of VAR going to look at it, they can only look at penalty decisions, goal decisions, red card decisions, so they can't go back and look at a potential dive. If they had given the penalty, I think I'm right in saying they could go back, say it's not a penalty, reverse that original decision and then give a yellow off the back of it. But they can't go and look at it just
for a
as a
yellow
dive.
card,
So because the penalty wasn't given, they can't go and say they've just said not enough contact for a penalty and so it's not been given. And that's why that happened and that's why he was on the pitch to
I was
to score the
surprised, if
winner.
I'm honest. When it went to VAR, I did think, oh, he could go here. Because, as you said there, it is a dive. Even though there's minimal contact, which there is, he probably should have gone for that.
Yeah. Aaron Ramsdale, it's not been the easiest of seasons for him by any stretch of the imagination. David Raya has come in ostensibly as a joint number one goalkeeper, which clearly has not been the case for him. And Aaron Ramsdale has to come on and deputise for him because Raya can't play against his parent club, Brentford, from whom he's on loan. And it's all going all right for Aaron Ramsdale. You know, in terms of distribution, a couple of long throws, a couple of steady saves, all absolutely fine. But then it all sort of falls apart from him. This is all relatively comfortable so far, and he's even starting up a couple of attacks.
Yeah, I mean, again, listen, what Arteta's done at Arsenal has been superb, and there's not too many things you can criticise him for. This is probably one instance I'd probably go, he's caused this problem, because he's brought in David Raya, who has been fantastic. You can't hide the fact. But he's just made, at one stage, both goalkeepers very nervous, and Aaron Ramsdale is suffering from that badly at the minute.
And right before half-time, this happens.
Oh, so unlucky.
Yeah.
Nobody wants... you just feel for Ramsdale because he was so brilliant last year. The one thing you would say is Mikel's job is... Wow, that was some strike from Sonny, by the way.
Yeah.
It was even better from behind. But the one thing you would say is Mikel's job is to make Arsenal the best team. They're better this year. Not just because of Raya, and Aaron Ramsdale is a brilliant goalkeeper. From where Mikel wants to go, he wants the goalkeeper to play a certain way, like David Raya, be a little bit better with his feet. And you'd have to say, and the proof is, after 30 games, or 28 games, Arsenal are a slightly better side, concede less goals. I think they've the best defence in the Premier League.
They concede less goals, but I think David Raya's save percentage is not brilliant. I think it might be one of the worst in the league. It's just that he doesn't face a lot of shots because the defensive unit works really well together. But Aaron Ramsdale recovering from that mistake to pull off a couple of very good. I don't know if we're maybe overstating it. Everybody wants Aaron Ramsdale to do well. He's that type of character. But there was so much support for him on Instagram, and you saw the reaction from the players and the backroom staff as he made his way off the pitch at half-time.
Yeah, do you know what? I think Aaron Ramsdale will come out of this really well. He'll probably end up leaving Arsenal in the summer and go be a regular somewhere else. And that's all football is, you know, sometimes. Some people are better fit for certain places. He did a great job for Arsenal last season. Manager decided in a different way this season. And I'm sure if I was Aaron, I'd probably be thinking, right, I'm going to potentially go play. I don't want to sit on the bench at such a peak time in my career, but he's a brilliant goalkeeper. David Raya is just a little bit different, maybe a little bit better with his feet. But I'm sure Ramsdale's going to get a big job in the summer if he fancies it.
I just wonder from a player's perspective if you think that the fact that Ramsdale made that mistake was caused in any way by the fact that he's not match fit, that he hasn't been playing games, that maybe there just wasn't quite that either speed of thought or speed with his getting his feet sorted out, or if it maybe just was a little bit of rustiness. Is that a reason that it might have happened, do you think?
Yeah, a little bit of rust, but also as well, ultra safe, because he's thinking to himself, I don't want to give the ball away. I don't want to be the reason that Arsenal concede a goal or we don't win the game. And as players, you go through that, don't you? When you're not necessarily the first choice, but you've been put in because someone's injured, you know, I don't want to let the team down. So maybe he's overthinking everything every time he takes a touch, because I'm sure last season it would go there and away it would go, but he's thinking, right, taking maybe a split second more than he should do just to get it right, and then he gets caught. And unfortunately, this is the position that he's in, but listen, he's going to learn from that. I agree with what Owen said there. He probably won't be at Arsenal next season because I think he's too good of a goalkeeper to sit on somebody's bench. And
they'll be able to sign Raya rather than have him in on
exactly.
loan.
And there's loads of clubs out there where they've got their number ones, but I think he's better. So I don't think he's going to have a problem as to where he goes.
And I do think people forget that Raya's had some moments like that too, where he's left it late or got himself into trouble with situations, because the way that Arsenal play, they want the goalkeeper to be part of that distribution with their feet. And Ramsdale is very good with his throws. He's very also good with long kicks. And the reason that Raya needs to come in is because he was struggling at corners. He was struggling with aerial balls, and they made that impact. But I don't think Raya's looked super consistent and comfortable. So I almost think it's the same issues almost disrupting both of them. But I think when you look at what happens when you change a goalkeeper, which Arteta, I think, felt like he could maybe cheat the system and say, we'll play two of them, is that you do disrupt that unit. And I think when Ramsdale's coming in cold, not just from a match fit point of view, but just building those relationships, I think all the defence have to make an adjustment as a result. But I also don't think Raya's been, 100% comfortable either way.
He will be back, of course, for the game against Manchester City. I can't wait for that one. 31st of March for Manchester City against Arsenal. Are you nervous yet already?
Do you know, I'm not. And I think that second half performance...
Are you confident?
No, I'm not confident.
But to be fair, he was nervous. David Raya played nervous at the fixture at the Emirates.
Yeah,
he made the crowd nervous. I was there. He made the crowd nervous.
Yeah.
So I think Phil makes a good point. But I think he's in a better place now, David Raya. And I think the team's in a better place. Declan's had a big impact. Kai has had a big impact. So I'm curious.
So
I mean,
Arsenal
that game's
are in a better place than they were when they beat Manchester City at the Emirates earlier in the season.
100%, 100%. And I think actually Arsenal were good in that game. They got an important result, but I don't think they were that good. I think it was more City being really poor. Yeah. I think the definitive moment for me was Arsenal being Liverpool at the Emirates. That's when you see, OK, they have outclassed a phenomenal side, and I think we're going to see a different situation because of that.
Agreed. I was so enjoying what Phil was saying there. But no, yes.
You were not. You were watching the goals.
It's going to be a completely different game that we expect at the Emirates. But Arsenal, I think, as you said, that period of the season, even though Arsenal were getting results, they weren't necessarily playing as well as they're playing now. So I think Declan Rice has come on leaps and bounds. Jorginho's been put back into a situation where I thought at one stage maybe his time was come to an end. He's started to control games. You've got Thomas Partey coming back. I think Arsenal right now are in a really good place. I
was going to ask if you think it's a title decider, but I think we might be going back to that old cliche of, well, it can't be won there, but it can be lost.
Yeah, do you know what?
I'll just talk to myself.
I think it's one of those where you're right. I still think with Manchester City, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because of what we've seen previous, that even if they do lose a game, I still expect them to go on and win 90% of the games that they've got left. So looking at the last 10 fixtures, which we saw earlier, I think Arsenal are going to have to win minimum 7 to win the title, because I just can't see the other two dropping that many points at all.
And there's too many games left.
Yeah. Oh, it's too early to call. We're not doing predictions just yet. But we're just predicting it's going to be a good end to the season for Manchester City, for Liverpool and for Arsenal. But it's going to be a So Opta have reassessed their chances for everybody winning the Premier League title. Manchester City are still favourites. They've got them at a 45.9% chance. That means that they've gone down by over 5% in terms of their chances of winning. Liverpool more or less the same, but Arsenal are the ones who've benefited from Manchester City dropping points at Anfield. And this will be, you'd imagine, well, it is based on the game coming up, and maybe Arsenal's chances against Manchester City have changed in the sort of aftermath of this weekend's performances.
Yeah, I mean, still Arsenal not done very well at the Etihad since Arteta's took reign over Arsenal. But again, they have to go there and believe. But I mean, Manchester City, I can understand why. I think because of this time, so many times before, we've seen Liverpool, Manchester City do it so often.
At this stage, then, on Manchester. We've seen the chances. Do you agree with the percentage chances of Manchester City winning it at this stage?
Yes, because Arsenal have got to go to the Etihad. So I still think if they can overcome that, then I think that will change dramatically. But because they've still got to go there and they've never won there, it's still in Manchester City's hands, kind of. So I can understand why the graphic would still show Manchester City as top.
Yeah. It's got harder to call, not easier, hasn't it, Owen?
I was just thinking, let's be honest, nobody has a clue who's going to win. All three teams are right in the mixer, and rightly so. Arsenal are more prepared than they have been in the past. So, look, they give themselves a fighting chance now. I think they're a little bit more experienced. Declan Rice helps. Hopefully they got them. Injuries is a big one. I mean, all these guys are in Europe as well, so depending on how that plays out. But I think it's going to be fascinating, but I don't think anybody could call it right now. Still, with 10 games to go, we're going to probably the best title race ever, potentially.
Let's take a look at those 10 games, because we've got them for all three of the teams involved. And remember, there's another game sort of to come that's still to be arranged. So Arsenal have got Chelsea still to be put into the fixture list. Everton to come for Liverpool. So they've got a Merseyside derby on the horizon, and Manchester City are going to be playing Brighton at the Amex. Do you think there's anything in that flow in terms of who's got an easier run in, who's got a more difficult run in? Obviously, the game between City and Arsenal is the one that stands out. Maybe there's a North London derby in there for Arsenal you want to look at. Manchester United for Arsenal, Manchester United for Liverpool. What do you think?
I think on the balance of that fixture list, I think Liverpool have a fairly nice run in. I do think that North London derby for Arsenal away at Spurs Stadium, it could prove tricky, because you know that obviously Tottenham are going to be up for it. They're going to be fighting for Champions League at that point. Arsenal have stumbled sometimes in the last few years there and felt kind of maybe a bit intimidated by the moment. And with the way that Ange Postecoglou almost likes his side to rise to that occasion and play with that intensity, it could be a really tough one. So even if they maybe come through that City game fairly unscathed, let's say they get a draw, there's still a lot riding on North London derby away from home. Whereas I look at Liverpool's fixtures and I think,
they're the friendliest, aren't they?
Yeah, it's hard to see them tripping up in some of those games, because Manchester United just aren't the same beast.
But what's quite interesting about that is I wonder if it's easier at this stage of the season, when players are starting maybe to fade, or they would be starting to fade, if it's easier to have games ahead of you to keep your sharpness, the kind of games that make you absolutely focus, or if there's any chance that you could slip off in the run-in, because not complacency, but maybe just overconfidence, maybe, or relaxing very slightly ahead of a game. Is that a danger?
I think the only thing is pressure. Pressure. And Arsenal, obviously, they had some injuries last season. They were a young team, probably one of the youngest in the league. They probably struggled with that expectation, I think, at that moment. I think they're more ready. City are definitely ready. And I think Liverpool will be with Jurgen Klopp as well. So I think the only thing is really pressure. And when you get the first crack, because all those teams are somewhere, and they probably won't drop them where we think they probably should drop them. So when you get the first crack, it's when and how you respond. Last season, Arsenal had a little wobble, and it turned into a bigger wobble. This season, I think they're more ready. And I think City, with their experience, they'll be the most ready. But whoever has a little crack and how they respond after that moment is going to be the most important thing.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating as it comes to an end.
Complaint that Kai Havertz shouldn't have been on the pitch to score the winner because he should have got a second yellow card for diving. Chris, your thoughts on that, please?
I think it's very difficult, Mark, to be honest with you, to caution a player for that. I mean, is it a penalty? No, it's not a penalty. Is it a dive? I don't think it is. I think there's contact with Nathan Collins. I think it's more hip on hip and he goes to ground. The referee's got a decision to make. But there's always a third way in this situation. and the third way is to play on. And I think the referee, Rob Jones, took the best option there. I just don't think it's a penalty, and I don't think it's a dive. It's play on.
To take Thomas Frank's side for a second, was Havertz not going down already before the hips collided?
Well, there's just a little bit of movement, but when there's contact, it's very difficult to caution a player for simulation in that situation. If there's no contact, then you're talking about something else, but it's hip on hip there. As I said, it's not a penalty. I don't think it's a dive. Just play on. Do it the third way.
Darren, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with Chris on that. I don't think it's a dive, because whenever there's contact, it's hard to just go, right, he's dived, and all the Brentford players there are screaming at the ref to book him. But again, it's how much contact's enough.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably a bit light, but then it's not a dive.
Yellow card dive.
You think it's a dive?
Absolutely, 100%. He's gone for the contact.
He's initiated the contact.
100%, in my opinion, yellow card. I detest diving.
Yeah.
I don't like people that are cheating to try and gain, and that's what he's tried to do.
OK. Chris, thank you very much indeed. He stayed on the pitch.
Good header.
He's coming good. He scored 4 in 4 now. It is a good header. He's playing in this sort of full... Well, sometimes he plays as a false 9, sometimes he plays a little bit wider on the left, and whether Xhaka role played. What about what Havertz has... what he's done and what he's looked like in the last few weeks?
I think in Premier League history since 1992, he's the player where we don't know where he plays or what he does. He just seems to come up with odd moments that mean a lot to his football club and himself. He comes up with a really good goal at the end, a lovely header, gets himself in the right position, and he really puts some power on the header there and gets the goal, which is the all-important goal. But I'm not quite sure where he plays or what he does.
I quite like him as a false 9, and whenever Arsenal create opportunities, I think he's better in the air than people give him credit for. Because
really good in the air, isn't he?
Yeah, because even if he doesn't score, he always seems to get the first contact, whether he glances it or it bounces down. But
he's a big lad, Ben. He's a big lad.
Yeah, he's tall.
Big physical presence, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think Arteta's now finally starting to get the best out of him. I think he's had a number of games playing that false 9, and he seems more comfortable in that role. So he's coming good. A lot of people question the price tag, and rightly so, because he got off to a slow start. But it's like anything, Dion. You have to get up to speed with the way that the team play. He looks like he's doing that, and he's coming good at the right time.
I don't think anybody is questioning what he has or what he potentially has. It's just not bringing it out in a consistent
Well, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about him being a bit of a luxury player at 65 million.
Yeah.
You know, if you were 35 million, you wouldn't use the adjective luxury. But 65 maybe. But listen, it takes time to settle in. He's come from another London club. So, of course, there's a little bit of... assimilation with the fans. You go, well, hang on, they won the Champions League. He scored the winning goal, and they don't want him, so who he is. Just goals, we play more stoppage time, so maybe this next stat is a little bit dislocated because we now play 7-8 minutes of stoppage time, don't we? But the amount of goals that Arsenal and Liverpool score in the closing stages is quite phenomenal, isn't it? And striking when both of them are going head-to-head, and obviously along with Manchester City.
I think they're two of the best sides that I don't know, they just tend to keep going after 80, 85 minutes. They keep sending players
Maybe Man City have won the game by then,
pace.
is another thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But when we talk about these two sides, they do send players forward in the 85th, the 80th, 90th minute. They still want to win the game. They don't want to sit in and take what they've got. They want to win the game and gamble. That's why they've had so many...
Do you know what they tend to do as well? They never deviate from what they know gets into that position.
Yeah.
Whereas some teams might change their tactics, start going long ball. It's like they keep playing it. 'Cause the amount of times you're screaming at the TV, get it forward, and they keep passing it, keep passing it, just waiting for that opportunity, and then they strike and they get the goal.
The time has come, gentlemen. 10 games to go.
I know.
Let's have a look at the fixtures. Come on, then. Up to you to decide where it's going to go. Right at the bottom, TBC, to be confirmed. So those games are not necessarily the last games of the season.
Okay.
To be confirmed. This time last year, in the last 10 games of the season, obviously not the same fixtures, Arsenal dropped 12 points, Liverpool dropped 3, and Manchester City dropped 4. So Arsenal have been in this position before and faltered. Liverpool and City have been down this road many, many times. City have tended to win it because Liverpool have had their hearts broken so many times. But there we are. Arsenal have got a better goal difference now. But Liverpool will look at their next 2 home games and go, there's a chance for that. Arsenal go to Manchester City next. They've still got to go to Tottenham. This is the great fun bit now that people at home can decide for them which fixtures they would prefer. Look at the Dion's working out like he's at school. I would look at those myself and say Liverpool have got the best fixtures. But that's just... It never quite pans out the way you...
No, it doesn't. I'm looking at the home games, to be honest with you. So I'm counting points, through home games, and I think Liverpool have got 5 home, and the other 2 We've got 4 home, so I would expect that to be points for.
No, City have got 5 at home as well.
Well, there you go. You see, there's the
Yeah.
points for you then.
Yeah.
You know.
But we've obviously got City Arsenal is next.
I think Arsenal looks difficult, and it probably is. Out of the 3, I think Arsenal got the harder running.
Yeah.
But then I look at Manchester City's last 4 or 5 games of the season, and I can't see where they're going to drop points. So Arsenal now will probably look at that and go, Manchester City, boy, gets to the last 5 games of the season. I can't see them dropping any points in that last 5.
From Forest onwards.
From Forest onwards, can't see them dropping any points. So Arsenal have got to just keep.
So if I say to you that, obviously you can see what the points difference is, 1, I would say minimum you have to win 7 of those. Absolutely minimum, probably 8. Would that be about right?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
You'd be looking at something like that?
I'd agree with that. I'd go the other way, and I would go, I don't think you can afford to lose more than 1.
Well, yeah.
That would, I would say.
Maybe you could drop 4 points. You lose 1, draw 1 max.
Yeah, and that's your lot. That's crazy, isn't it? Now that is all. That turns from the physical and the skill of the game to the how strong are you mentally to perform at the highest level every single time and not make any mistakes.
And we know, just the final thing here, we know that City can do it, and we know that Liverpool can do it, but we don't know that Arsenal can do it. And that is the joy of it all.
They are there. They are still there.
Yeah, they are.
They are still there.
They have to answer the question which they could not answer this time last year.
But they're leaders now. They're being chased again.
Yeah, but they'll be better this time around than they were last time, because last time was the unknown. Now they know exactly what to expect.
Yeah, brilliant. To have 3 of them, absolutely fantastic.